Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inside Game podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, this episode is in association with Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn Castleblaney. And here's a word from Ray's Tanning and Wellness in Auchnachoy.
Rays are the first on the island of Ireland to offer the Red Wave Pure Red Light Therapy Bed, a cutting-edge recovery tool now being used by top athletes worldwide. Whether it's muscle soreness, inflammation, joint stiffness or speeding up overall recovery, red light therapy is becoming a genuine game changer. So if you're training hard, coming back from a knock or just wanting to stay injury free, call into Rays and experience the benefits for yourself. Rays Tanning and Wellness, helping athletes recover faster, perform better and stay in the game.
Welcome everyone to the Inside Game podcast. Please remember folks to give the Inside Game a like, a follow or a subscribe on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and Spotify. It really does help to keep the podcast coming. So episode number 23, and today it's a pleasure to welcome on an absolute legend of Armagh, one of the best forwards to ever wear the orange jersey, 2003 Footballer of the Year and 3-time All-Star. So Stevie McDonnell, you're very welcome on the show. How's things with you, sir?
Not too bad, Gary. Thank you very much for asking me.
Yep, no problem at all. Stevie, with the Armagh Down semi-final to look back on, we have the Ulster final against Monaghan to look ahead to, and we now also have the round one All-Ireland series confirmed where Armagh will host Derry. But look, before we get into that side of things, you're managing Stevie at the minute in Division 1A. Look, I'll not ask you too much about it really, but you won the league last year as manager, the first time the club has ever won the top flight league. And look, how you finding life as a Gaelic football manager at this level?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. To be honest, it's really, really good with the new rules. So it is. I possibly wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as what I have done if we were still playing the old system. It was getting really boring. And for somebody coming from an attacking point of view, no, I wasn't enjoying it, definitely not. But the new rules have definitely give a lot of people a new lease of life. And yes, I'm enjoying being part of a team that wants to be successful and being part of an attack-minded team as much as that as well.
Well, I heard something there recently about Stevie, that they're one of the biggest parishes in Ireland. I think I heard like one of the very biggest. I think it was Tommy Coleman, who you'd know well, said that. So look, I'm sure there's ambitions there, Stevie, to be pushing on further again.
Yeah, listen, having a big parish to choose from isn't always, I suppose, favourable to us. So it isn't. But what we have now at the minute is a tight-knit group of players that are very ambitious and want to achieve success and want to win things, and that's very important for any manager coming into a setup. And we had great managers before us, Tommy Coleman being one of them, and Tommy tried to implement the right way of playing football in Stevie. It's no surprise that Stevie teams down through the years have always loved to express themselves and play open attacking football, and certainly the new rules have helped with that way. If it was still the old rules, they'd be playing attacking football with me regardless anyway, But listen, yeah, there's a big pick to choose from, and sometimes that's a hindrance more so than a positive. But hopefully over the course of the next couple of years we'll start to get it a wee bit better and fine tune it better as well.
Well, this enjoyment of the new rules, would it give you any ambitions of being a county manager at any stage, David?
Absolutely not. I've absolutely no intentions of ever going into the county game. Not the way the game has gone. You have to tip your hat to anyone involved in the county set up at all now, because it's just 7 days a week, around the clock. Preparing for games, preparing for training sessions, watching games back, team meetings. It's just endless. So it is, and the fact of the matter is, there's only a select few teams that are going to get the rewards at the end of the campaign, and it's not for me. The county game is not for me. Possibly might have been 7 or 8 years ago, but not now. Not the way the game has gone. And managing a club team takes a lot of time up in itself, and I'm happy and thankful for that alone.
Well, Stevie, look, you played on the Armagh under-21 team back in 1998. They won the Ulster title. Had John McIntyre on, spoke about that a while ago. You played along with John and Tony and Paddy McKeever, John Toll, a few others. Your breakout year for the senior team was 2000 under the two brands, and I think you retired in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
look, in between all that, Stevie, and All Ireland wins 6 or 7 Ulster titles, a National League title, Footballer of the Year award, and also look, the first ever player. I read the first ever player to score an accumulated 100 points in the International Rules Series, and you finished on a tally of 108 points. So look, what a remarkable career.
118 points actually.
What did I
Not
say? I thought
108.
it
108.
108. Yeah,
Yeah.
118. That's
No.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen. I suppose being the only player to accumulate that amount of points for Ireland. In fact, in the game itself between Ireland and Australia, was a big thing. The closer I got to 100 points, it became a big thing for me, because it's not an easy thing to do. But listen, given the position that I played in and the fact that goals were worth 6 points and a point was worth 3 points, it definitely had my case with that there. But listen, it was always good, and first and foremost, I always seen it as my duty and job in any team that I played in to get scores for the team, and thankfully I was able to fulfil that with most of the teams I played with.
Stevie, look, you'll certainly not remember this, but I used to play for a soccer team called New Mills that were based outside Dungannon, and I remember playing against you you were playing for Killeavy United. It would have been in the Mid-Ulster Cup match, and look,
Right.
I think it was probably in around 2015, 2016 season. The weather was good, so it was probably like the springtime of 2016 or something. It was at our pitch. But look, there was me playing against one of my favourite Armagh heroes, and I was telling all the lads about who you were, and it meant very little to them because they weren't Gaelic men. I put it that way.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit of a crazy match. It was like you score, we score up until 3-3, and then eventually Killeavy United pulled away and won 5-3 or 6-3 or something. But look, you enjoyed a bit of soccer too as well, then, Stevie.
Yeah, I always played a wee bit of soccer when time allowed me. Back when I was a late teenage, whatever, would have played a wee bit with Glenavon and Newrytown as well. So, um, listen, Gaelic was my first love, of course, and I was a better Gaelic player than what I was soccer player. And you probably came to see that when you played against me. But listen, I always enjoyed playing a wee bit of soccer, and I suppose in the off season and playing with a good like himself and Paul Hardy and Kieran McKeever and all played with a team up here called Shannon Santos as well. So I would have played a wee bit down through the years, and I always felt that definitely had the fitness levels tip over when the off season in the Gaelic was on.
Yeah. And before we get into the Armagh side of things, obviously, Stevie, you played in a different era to what the game is like now. What do you, if you were going in to try and play that game now, do you think you'd enjoy it more? The way the team sort of control the ball now and possession based, and rather than sort of that long diagonal ball that you and the likes of Ronan Clark would have thrived off back in your time.
Yeah, I would love to play the game now, believe it or not. There is still opportunities. We see it with Kerry quite a lot. They still like to kick the ball quite a bit. We've seen Dara McMullen catch a kick out the other day, go past the goalkeeper, launch the ball in. That's my type of ball. That's what I suppose served the career on that type of ball. And from time to time, those deliveries do come in. But yeah, I think just the way the game is, it's a forwards game nowadays. If you get a wee bit of space, then you can create opportunities. And the 2 point rule has been, it's been a fantastic game changer. So it has, and I would love to trial that there. A lot of my teammates would say I wasn't never allowed out that far, but I would still say I was more than capable of kicking the odd 2 pointer if I was playing in the modern game.
And what about if you were playing in the game before the rules came in, the sort of the few years leading up to the rules, where it was like basically 15 players back?
Yeah, no, there was no enjoyment in that. And listen, towards the end of my career, I suppose the ultra defensive tactics started to come into force, and it probably had me considering my career at county level, so they had me make my decision, and it became a lot easier of a decision for me to say no, I wanted to step away. I just seen the game going in a different direction to the way I wanted to play the game, and knowing that I relied heavily on balls coming into me and the timing of the ball coming into me as early as possible, and that wasn't going to be the case. So it probably would have made my job inside as an inside forward and a predator and scorer, probably more difficult. And I think we over that 10-year period or so, there was less and less of the inside marquee forwards and being able to portray their skills, and we're starting to see it once again in the game now, and that's what I love about it.
Just a shout out and a thank you to Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney, for the continued support of the podcast. If you're ever in Castleblaney, or even if you're not, why not visit the Old Coach Inn for a fine dining experience and entertainment in their friendly bar and lounge. That's in the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney.
Stevie, Armagh down over the weekend. 333 to 14 points. Like even in old money, converting the 2-pointers back down, Armagh scored 330. Look, I watched your discussion on the Win with Armagh podcast you done in the build up to the match, along with Kevin McKiernan, and Kevin, of course, he appeared on my podcast last week as well. Similar to myself, you felt Armagh would win, probably just that bit of extra experience at this level being the deciding factor. But I heard you talking, and I sort of said the same thing. I thought just a few points really. But look, Armagh winning, it was no shock, but anywhere would you have foreseen a blowout like that? So like, where do you even begin?
No, listen, I definitely fancied Armagh, and I fancied them by 5-6 points. Nothing more, because and the reason why I wouldn't have said any more is Armagh down through the years has always been a tough game, a tight game, and even when Armagh had lesser teams and down had better teams, they were always a tough, tight encounter, and there was no way we could have foreseen what happened at the weekend. And maybe what happened in the second half against Fermanagh was Down's downfall as well, as much as Armagh's gain, because Geezer made no secret that he wasn't happy with the standard and the quality that was shown in the second half compared to the first half of that game, and they dropped their standards and took their eye off the ball a wee bit, and certainly he laid the marker down at the weekend. He says, play for 70 minutes if you want to be in with a chance of getting into this team for the Ulster final, and each and every player stood up and was counted. And listen, it is you have to feel sorry for Down in some respect, not a lot, but in some respect, because listen, beating Donegal the week before and being on such a high, having faced, it's really difficult, because Armagh and Donegal for me are two of the top 3 teams in the country. And people can say otherwise, but I really believe that Armagh, Donegal and Kerry are the 3 top teams in the country. In no particular order, probably Kerry at number 1. But for a Down team to be able to beat one of them, it would have been a tough ask to say, right, you have to beat 2 out of the top 3 teams in the country within 7 days of each other. And that in itself is not an easy task for any team, regardless of who they are.
Blaine Hughes' kickouts on the day, absolutely exceptional. Team sheet still showed Ethan Rafferty to start the game, but it was probably maybe Geezer's plan all along just to keep it there, because that's what it wasn't for Mana. But the kickouts on the day were just an absolute weapon. Yeah,
well, listen, Blaine Hughes has been probably consistently the best goalkeeper in Ireland for the last 3 years since the year Armagh won the All-Ireland. He should have received an All-Star that year as well. His kickouts are immense. They're fantastic. They're so consistent, and we all love to see Ethan Rafferty get a chance in between the sticks as well, and because he's a top level goalkeeper, even though he's played a lot of his football outfield, but he is a top level goalkeeper as well. But you can see the competition for places between them 2 guys, and it's very, very difficult to take Blaine out of that team at the minute, because he's so consistently good, not only at kickouts, but we've seen it shot stopping once again at the weekend. He comes out well off his line, he covers the ball well, he covers the space well, and he's just a fantastic goalkeeper. But his kickouts, you can see that there's a serious level of trust between him and the outfield players, that he takes his time, and he knows exactly when to go, and they make the runs, and that's why they're so perfect.
Yeah. Ben Creeley, obviously, we know about him being injured long term. Callum O'Neill is out. There was a few guys missing from the week before. Some of them seem to have made their way back pretty quickly, which is good. But then we heard that Ross McQuillan was out. But look, it doesn't seem to really matter here, Stevie. Somebody goes out, they talk about next man up, but when they say it, it's not only words,
Yeah,
it's not just words, they actually mean it. And
yeah.
the boys come in and they just don't seem to miss a beat.
Yeah, and you have to give great credit to like Jason Duffy, who's been in and out of the team over the last number of years,
Mhm.
but he's found a real good vein of form at the minute, and he's a very, very top. He's a very capable footballer, so he is, and he's one of them versatile players that you can play in the inside line. You can also throw him in the midfield like he has been going.
Yeah.
Charlie O'Burns as well. What a job he done, Nora Murdoch at the weekend. Not too many of us would have tipped Charlie Oak to go in the midfield and be able to do that type of job on Oran Murray, but he was immense from start to finish. And I know from time to time during the game, there was different players picking up Oran, but I think Charlie Oak was tasked with that duty more than most. But Andrew Mernon back out there, back out to his best. He's just a class. So he is. He is an immense footballer and has been an unbelievable servant to Armagh down through the years. And having Andrew Mernon back in the team and playing football the way he is a massive plus to Armagh as well. It's just a pity that Ben Creeley picked up the injury when he did, because he offers that height out around midfield as well. But as you say, listen, next man in, and they never seem to disappoint.
That's right. Well, look, one thing I suppose, Davey, that stood out about your team that you played on, it was full of leaders. And I think Sunday to me showed a lot of leadership qualities coming through from players. You'd mentioned Jordy Oak, how good he was, and you'd mentioned Mernon. Other players like Tiernan Kelly, Aaron McKay, Joe McElroy, Greg McCabe. There's others, but like you're just starting to see a lot of leaders now emerging, in the face of players have sort of left the panel or haven't committed. New guys are just coming in and they're just standing up.
Yeah, and all those guys that you named off there, like they're all Ireland winners, so they are, and they take it upon themselves to step up to the mantle, and they are doing that. And I would actually say, like Darren McMullen is leading by example as well. Oisin Connerty, these are young fellas. These are in their early 20s, and they're stepping up match after match and putting in high level performances. But when the going gets tough, all you have to do is look at the likes of Greg McCabe, Aaron McKay, Joe McElroy. These boys really put their bodies on the line, and there's an endless amount of leaders within that team, and there's an endless amount of trust on each and every player from the management team within that, and you can see it's a two-way thing, and that's brilliant to see.
But one last thing I suppose that stood out to me was the running power that the team seemed to have, and I listened to a few other podcasts as well. It was mentioned, and also players understanding their roles, so they all contribute to becoming sort of like greater than the sum of their parts in ways, like sort of like in a machine like sort of way. So like maybe just touch on those two sort of things: the running power and the players' roles. Then,
yeah, listen, they're so athletic, and I would say the stats that they put in, the kilometers every game is ridiculous. On average, your club player is getting anywhere between 10 and 11 kilometers. That's a player right around midfield. I would say most of the Armagh team are probably racking up 13 to 14 kilometers in the course of a game. It's Conor Laverty said it afterwards. He says, once Armagh go going, they're just a machine. And that is exactly it. They are just a machine. And what's so impressive about them is their ability to communicate and to understand each other's roles. If there's a bit of crisscrossing between opponents, they hold their position. They know exactly what they're all about. And I go back to that word trust again. They are communicating so effectively with each other that they all trust each other's games. They all trust that each person is going to fulfill their role in any play, and once they turn a team over, it's lightning quick back up the field. So it is, and they go en masse, and that's testament to the likes of Julie Davis, who's head of S&C with the team and does a lot of their fitness work as well. So, these Armagh players are like most county players nowadays are sublimely fit, but there's something about the Armagh team that seems to just be they really are machines. You look at their physique. I was looking at physique of some of these players a couple of years ago compared to now, and they are finely tuned athletes that are well able to withstand the hard hustle bustle of championship football, but the running game that's there for us all playing the be seen there now at the minute.
Yep. Stevie, we'll play Monaghan in the Ulster final.
Yeah.
At the time of recording, it's not the weekend coming; it's the following one. But look, they had their game over the weekend over Derry. They got their win over Derry in the semi final. Pure drama. If there's anything we've learned about Monaghan over the years, it's that they can never be written off. You know, there's a determination within their team and within their county, really in general, to keep punching. You know, no matter the adversity, no matter how big the underdog tag placed upon them. And you know that's probably Armagh's biggest challenge, really, that they're going to face in Ulster final day. Monaghan, they won't fade the underdog tag; they'll embrace it.
Yeah, and Monaghan also have, I suppose, an advantage because they've got players in their dressing room who've won Ulster titles. You know, and there's a lot to be said for that. Rory Beggan, Conor McCarthy, Jack McCarron, but those boys have been here, done it. Armagh have been to the last 3 Ulster finals, haven't won. You know, and that carries a burden as well. Although, in saying that, I do think there's something different about this group of Armagh players at the minute. They have the experience of obviously going and winning an All-Ireland a couple of years ago, but I just think there's something about them that they're clicking at the right time and not too soon. You know, they are very consistent in how they play. And that is the big thing with this Armagh team. And I would go back as far and say that, you know, since they won the All-Ireland, last year's campaign, all the way up until that 15-minute blitz from Kerry, they were the most consistent team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
This year, their league campaign, while all the results didn't go their way, they were very consistent in their performances. So they were. And yes, they didn't have it all their own way against Tyrone in the first round game, but they've seen that game out. But they've been very consistent in the championship as well. And it's the level of consistency that these boys continuously get to and show us that is so remarkable. And listen, they're gonna have a few obstacles to overcome in the Ulster final for sure. One thing that I would be saying is you cannot afford to give away a free 65, 70 yards out from goal because they've got Rory Beggan and he would put them over for fun and he just puts them over at his leisure. They will never ever give up. You know, if Armagh go 4 or 5 points up, Monaghan will be chipping away, and they've got a lot of capable players in that squad as well. And I just wouldn't underestimate them. Thankfully, Conor McManus is no longer part of their squad, though.
Yeah. I think you mentioned about you can't give a free away from 65 metres. You can't give it one away from the sideline either. That was some effort that McCarron had. Would you have been capable of hitting one like that yourself, Stevie, back in the day?
Probably not as consistently as him. I've had a few over, but he definitely caught that on the sweet spot, so he did. And I heard Conor McManus actually saying in podcasts afterwards that if Jack McCarron hit 10 of those, he would have fancied 6 or 7 going over the bar. The way that they did, he's that consistent in his level of kicking. So, you know, when you think about it, most teams would be sending a right-footed kicker over to take that shot. Yep. You know, and Monaghan didn't because they trusted Jack McCarron's ability to put that over with the outside of his boot. And what a point and what a free. Yes, he may have stood on the line, but if the linesman had been brave enough to chalk that one off, it would have been absolute uproar. But listen, that's why we go to watch Gaelic games, to see points, to see moments of brilliance like that there, see Rory Beggan stepping up and being as calm as what he was and being able to slide over 2-point free. These boys are worth the admission fee alone, and it's moments like that you really cherish, and Armagh have presented us with any amount of moments like that there over the last number of years as well.
Well, look, I will ask you how you think the final will go, but before I do, Stevie, we got the draw for the first round of the All-Ireland series where Armagh will play Derry 2 weeks after the Ulster final. Yeah. I know there's plenty of time to look ahead to this one, and obviously the players and management will be focusing on Monaghan first. But look, if I was to get your early thoughts on that big game, and I suppose even the the format itself, what do you make of that then?
I'm not that fussed in the format, to be honest. I'm not really 100% sure how it's going to all work out and pan out yet. I think the round robin that we had in place for the last number of years was the perfect format. And
Yes, I liked it myself, actually. Yeah.
I don't know why they had to go and change it. A lot of people seem to be confused about the current format, and I'm one of those people. Until we probably get to a round or two into it, we'll start to understand that we've better. But like if you look at the likes of Donegal having to travel to Kerry, Donegal are beat. That's 2 games in a row, yet they're still in the championship. It's a wee bit difficult to take something like that there in, but it's given teams plenty of opportunities anyway. But I'm not particularly fussed on the new format at the minute. I'm not particularly fussed on a draw being made 2 weeks in advance of provincial finals being played. And there's lots of negatives about it, but I suppose it is what it is, and we know who we have 2 weeks after we play an Ulster final, and that's Derry. And the one bonus is that it is a home game for Armagh. And the last time we played Derry at home was last year in the championship, and we beat them.
That's right. Well, suppose if there's one advantage I've taken from this new format, it's that the likes of Kerry and maybe Dublin years gone by, there was sort of like a criticism level that they weren't getting any big games until later in the championship, so they could kind of just, build their season up and then get themselves going later on when they face a few tough games. But the likes of this format now, you can see it does produce more difficult ties for teams that got at an earlier stage.
Yeah, and listen, without taking our eye off the ball with Armagh and Derry, we know that that's going to be a tough game. It's a local Ulster game, and there's not never easy in Ulster. But Donegal and Kerry is the marquee fixture in the first round, so it is. And Kerry certainly will be out to make amends of their National League final defeat, while Donegal will be out to make amends of their first round Ulster championship defeat to Down. So it'll be interesting. People say what type of mentality will both managers win with. I can assure you that both managers will begin to win that game. They want to lay a marker down. Kerry want to, I suppose, lay a marker down on a statement to say that they're still the number one team to be beat. And Donegal, beating All Ireland finalists last year, current National League champions, they would see themselves as probably being the number 2 team in the country at the minute, and they'll want to lay that marker down as well. So, there's a fascinating couple of weeks ahead, but at the end of the day, no matter which team wins, the losing team still has another chance regardless.
That's it. Well, Stevie, before we wrap up here, I'm going to get you to predict all 4 provincial finals. So if I say Cork and Kerry, who play this weekend, and and Galway and Roscommon, who play this weekend.
Yeah, I think I still believe Kerry will win. A lot of people suggesting that Kerry will put out a weekend team. I can't see that happening. I know they have a number of injuries within their camp, but they've got the class of David Clifford up front and Sean O'Shea. And once you've got players of that ability, you always have a serious chance in any game. And I just think they're still a step or two above Cork at the minute. I think Kerry will win that one. Galway and Roscommon, I'm going to actually go with Roscommon in this one. I think they've been a form team in Connacht this year. A very attack-minded team. The new rules certainly suit the Galway front six and how to go about things. And I just think that they're well coached, well drilled, and given their performance against Mayo in the semi-final, they'll go in with huge confidence as well. And Galway, I think Galway have won maybe last 4. Am I right in saying that? 4.
They've won 4, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it's not to be on the end all for them, but it'd be a massive bonus for Roscommon to kick on. I think Roscommon will see this in 3.
And then obviously the following weekend we have Dublin and Westmeath. Somehow Meath and Louth were very fancy there. Neither of them are in the final. And then of course the big one for us, Armagh and Monaghan. So you want to predict those then?
Yeah, Dublin beating Louth last week, the reigning Leinster champions. That was a big statement because Dublin haven't been going too well in years gone by. We would have been saying that would have been an easy victory for Dublin, and as it panned out, it was an easy victory for Dublin. But Louth obviously will have their chance to redeem themselves in the first round games because they've been drawn against Dublin and Croke Park, but I just think that Dublin will have too much class for Westmeath in this game. Westmeath are without Luke Loughlin as well. their full forward who they do rely on heavily for scores, and he's out for the rest of the season, so he'll be a huge loss for them. If he was fit and round to go, you'd probably give Westmeath a better chance, but I think Dublin will be the team that will win Leinster this year and back to winning ways, and they'll be hopeful that Conor O'Callaghan will be fit and ready to play as well.
And then for ourselves then, Stevie, the big one, Armagh Monaghan. How do you see it going?
Listen, I think it's going to be one of them games where it'll be cagey for the first 10-15 minutes, and then football will start to open up a wee bit better, and Armagh's game plan and run ability and capabilities of getting scores from all over the field will definitely create a lot of problems and headaches for the Monaghan defence. I think Armagh will win for me. They will win. I would actually say it'll win by as much as 8 points. And the reason why is, we know where the scoring threat is going to come from within Monaghan. Where most of the scoring threat, I know they had 11-12 scores at the weekend, but we know where most of their scores will come from. And Armagh will set about putting a plan in place to stop that there. But I just think, from number 2 all the way out to number 15 and the subs coming in off the bench for Armagh, there's just so much scoring power. I think we had upwards of 15 players to score at the weekend. So if you've got that in your team, then you're going to create a lot of hassle and headaches for your opponents. And I just think the way Armagh are playing at the minute, they're playing with a confidence and a class. And I just think that they probably will win Ulster. And the hurt of the last couple of years will start and stand by them as well.
Yeah, good. Looking forward to it, Stevie. But listen, thanks for coming on. Real pleasure. Great talking to you, and all the best going forward, Killeavy.
Thanks very much. Thank you.